morning everyone, welcome to Jet Junkies. We are here at Salvage International and I'm here with Mark Gregory, the Managing Director. Pleased to meet you, Mark. And thank you for having us here. So, we wanted to talk to you today. We wanted to find out a bit about yourself and we also wanted to find out about Salvage International. So, first of all, we'll start off talking about yourself, if that's okay. So, who are you and how did you start in this business?
Well, I started the business off in 1996. So we've been going quite a number of years now. We've been going for over 22 years. I was made redundant from Dan Air, always been an aviation person, and I started the business off when I was made redundant. And what I've done, I used my redundancy money, I bought a small airplane, stripped the aircraft down, sold the parts onto a smaller operator. Thought this is a good fun business to be in. Obviously, 22 years ago, there wasn't much of this going on in the UK anyway, really. Thought it was a fun business to be in, started getting more aircraft, and kind of here we are today, really.
And it kind of escalated.
Escalated, yeah, that's right, yeah.
Which you can see is a very successful business now, right? I mean,
it is, yeah. We average between 50 and 60 aircraft a year through the facilities. To date, we've dismantled over 700 aircraft worldwide, so we've gone all over the place, as far away as New Zealand, Hawaii. Most of Europe we've been to recover aircraft. But this is our fixed base. Like I said, we average between 50 and 60 aircraft through the facilities here.
Wow, that's more or less one a week, isn't it? Okay.
It is more or less. We've got about 22 aircraft here at the moment, actually.
Fantastic.
The airport is obviously a fairly large airport. They tend to cater for us predominantly, and also the executive jets and private and light aircraft. So that's all.
Fantastic.
We're the biggest operator here.
Fantastic. Okay, brilliant. Right. Okay. So ASI was your first and only venture.
First and only venture. From there, about 5 years ago, we started two other companies off, and we also have another little company. We've got a little light aircraft company where we lease light aircraft, but that's kind of an offshoot as well, which has been going for a long time actually. The other two companies we've got a maintenance company, we've got a parts trading company as well, which my son runs. So the maintenance company is here to support the live aircraft when they come through the facilities, when we're working on the aircraft for the owners or the operators who bring the aircraft in here before they decide what they want to do, whether they want to operate the aircraft again or part the aircraft out for spare parts. Fantastic.
Right, okay. So this was your first venture. You've got the two side companies running as well. Have you always been involved in aviation? Because you spoke about being with Dan Air, was it before
here? Yes, that's right. Yeah, I actually joined Dan Air in 1977 at Bristol Airport, so not too far away from here actually. And in 1976 or 1977, I actually went there on. It's a school. What do they call the school?
Like a work placement experience.
Okay. Right. Which my mum set up, and she put me at Bristol Airport. Really enjoyed working around aircraft. Always fascinated with airplanes. Thought this is a nice industry to be in. Picked up a job there, a part-time job there as well. Virtually sweeping the floors with the line station boys, Dan Air on the line there. And then when I was there, I was actually offered an apprenticeship by one of the MDs of Dan Air.
And that, I guess that was in an engineering kind of
engineering background, yeah, the engineering background. So I became an apprentice for Dan Air. I went left Bristol, went up to Hampshire, and I started my training up there, where I became a qualified engineering mechanic.
Brilliant. Okay, what a fantastic story. So you've been interested in aviation then since a child then, I'm guessing?
I have, yeah, for a long time, since the age of sort of 15, 16 I've been interested in aviation, so it's a fascinating industry to be in anyway, really.
It is.
It's very diverse, very different as well. Although it's a huge industry, it's a very small industry as well, so lots and lots of people know people as well, so which is great, because wherever I go I'm always meeting people that I've met over my career span of 35, 40 years now that I've been in the industry, so it's good industry. Yeah.
See a lot of interesting people on the way as well.
A lot of interesting people, yeah. I've met some very, very interesting people, likes of Stelios I've met, which is a very interesting
the guy who brought us EasyJet.
That's right, yeah. Philip Meeson, who owns Jet2, friends with him, so I know an array of people.
Fantastic. So, any more you want to drop in there?
A few famous people as well, I know, yeah.
Fantastic. Which will bring me on to a question later on, but that's towards the end of the interview. So we'll go on to the next part now. So we know a lot bit about yourself now. We certainly know a bit about the business. Obviously, our viewers on the other end of the camera, they obviously want to know as much as possible. So let's have a look. So can you explain who Air Salvage International is as an identity? If anyone's never heard of it before, obviously there's a lot of clues in the name, but can you go into a bit more detail about who Air Salvage International
When I started the business off, it was really to cater for aircraft that were aged and really scrap. So we started dealing with purely scrap metal, a few parts coming off the aircraft, and it's evolved over the 22 years that we've been in business to a point where now it's very, very big business. The aircraft are not left to rot away at different airports. The owners which own these aircraft are usually the banks and lessors that bring the aircraft to us, realise this, and they realised this some 15 years ago, that if they disassemble the aircraft at a certain point in its life, they're going to reap the rewards of some they're going to get more money basically for the aircraft as parts than they are. It
becomes like an asset management.
It's like an asset management really, rather than leave them abandoned or park them up and leave them hoping that they might be re-lifed and refly again. They're actually pulling them from the market at a prime age to get the best rewards for the parts on the market really.
So it's in a sense it's doing a job for them. They're able to recoup some money from their aircraft, and they're helping out with the rest of the industry.
Exactly, yeah. Gone are the days where aircraft were parked up in the deserts. I know they're still parked up in the deserts now, but eventually that will disappear. Aircraft will still be parked up, but it will be newer aircraft parked up waiting for a new operational life, but mid-life to late life aircraft will be disassembled for spare parts, because the parts market is a booming market at the moment.
Absolutely. You're based here at Cotswold Airport in the Cotswolds, and this is an active airport. It does function as an airport, but you're based here. Was there a particular reason why you picked Cotswold Airport as your main location, your focal point for the business?
Well, we've been at Cotswold Airport just over 18 years now, and the reason why we picked Cotswold Airport is we were working out of Bournemouth on some smaller aircraft down there, and we got approached by a very well-known airline, major airline that had a 747, a couple of aging 747s. They wanted to withdraw from service. We got into discussions with those guys. We won the contract to disassemble their first 747. Looking for somewhere to put it, looked at various airports or airfields around the UK. This one was a more or less deserted airfield in the middle of nowhere, and we opted to bring the aircraft into Kemble. So, and then we disassembled the aircraft here, and then we've grown from there basically.
Okay, and do you still work with that initial client which allows you to move to here?
No, they've got newer aircraft now. They've got much newer aircraft now. We've actually bid on a few of their aircraft which they've pulled out and retired. So
okay, and are you allowed to tell us what that airline is?
I'd rather not, but people can probably guess.
An English one?
An English one.
Very big one.
Very big.
Okay. We won't go into any more detail on that one. Okay. So we talked about when the business conception was 22 years ago.
Yeah.
And so where did it actually originate? Obviously, you said you were at Bournemouth initially.
I got the company off from my garden shed.
Right.
So the only premises I had was my garden shed. I had a fairly sizable garden in Hampshire, and I built this dedicated garden shed to house my little office and a tiny little workshop as well. And it kind of evolved from that little garden shed to where we are now. Basically. That time then, we were just basically dealing with salvage. We weren't dealing with the very expensive assets you see behind us here. This is
stand that to one side.
This is a CF6-80, and it's got a value of about $5 million. And most of the engines in this shed here, this has just come off an aircraft. It's come off a 747. It needed some work doing. We brought a company in from the US called ATOPS. They've done a top case repair on it. and now it's going to be wrapped up and preserved like the other engines over there, waiting for to be released again or resold. In the stores you see here, we've got there's probably about 20 engines, I would say.
20.
And each engine has got a minimum value of about $3 million.
Wow.
This one's about $5 million. Some of the engines over the back there, V2500s, they're about $4.5 to $6 million. So they're quite big. Again, they're all wrapped up, they're all mummified, they're all preserved, they're all waiting really to go out either on lease. They're not owned by us, they're actually owned by our customers, the lessors, and they are waiting to go out and be released and refitted on aircraft. And they're serviceable engines as well.
Fantastic. Okay. So is there likelihood that they would ever return to you again for
these engines
maintenance?
Also. Not the engines, no. They'll go away and be refitted. They'll probably end up on the wing of an aircraft flying somewhere. They'll be pulled and probably go to shop for the next visit. So we probably won't see. These engines have been removed from aircraft that come into our facilities.
Okay.
And these are going back to the values of the aircraft. 80 to 90% of the value of an aircraft we're disassembling are the engines.
The engines, that's right.
So once you take the engines off, that's the biggest cost really. So they make up a huge chunk of the value of the aircraft. The lessor or the owner will instruct the operator to fly the aircraft to our facilities for the lease return. Usually they're aircraft around about 15 years old, okay, that come through the facilities. They're not old and they're not young. They're kind of midlife.
Yeah.
Late midlife aircraft that are coming through the facilities. So the lessor will instruct the operator to fly it here. When it flies in here, it's still under the lease, okay, so the operator's still leasing it from the owner. We will then perform different checks on the aircraft, checks on the engines under our maintenance facility. So we're doing all this to assist the owner with the lease return and the operator with the lease return, giving the aircraft back to the rightful owner. It's a bit like hiring a car. So it's a bit like hiring a car or leasing a car.
Yeah.
You take your car back to Hertz Avis. The guy comes out, he looks around, he checks the tyres, checks the engine, checks the fuel. If everything's okay, you give him the keys back and you walk away. Aircraft are the same. The engines, to make sure that they're in the condition they are, accordance with the lease return. Once that's all okay, the operator and the owner will shake hands, and the lease return will be done, and they walk away. Sometimes there's money to be paid. Sometimes there's work to be done on engines that we found during the course of the inspection.
Yep.
Once that's done and the lease has been given back again to the owner, the operator will disappear, and then would really in the hands of the lessor or the owner.
Right.
They will instruct us then to either A, put the aircraft into a storage program pending a possible lease, so it may fly back out again on lease, or B, they will say, look, remove the engines as serviceable. We know they can be removed as serviceable because we just had the work done on the engines, so we'll remove them as serviceable, we'll bag them up, we'll mummify the engines, and then the owner will then either sell the engines or lease the engines to other operators. On a midlife aircraft, some of these engines could make more money leasing the engines over leasing the aircraft. So if you had the aircraft there with the engines and two engines separately, you could in fact make more money on leasing those engines to an operator than
really
leasing the whole aircraft. And this is the reasons why we're breaking the aircraft as well, because the owner will decide to go that way, lease the engines out, break the aircraft and making more money. So,
makes a lot of sense.
And the reasons why we're breaking the aircraft as well is because the sum of the parts on the aircraft is worth more than the sum of the aircraft as a flying aircraft, not because the aircraft's too old.
That's right. It's just about analysing the.
It is really,
what the value is and the assets, so then making a decision on.
It's kind of a commodity. So it's we look at these things. Investors get involved in these aircraft to invest in aircraft to make more money. Hedge funds, you name it, loads of people get involved in it because the returns on once you disassemble an aircraft and start breaking an aircraft for spare parts are quite high really, and I would say between 20 and 25%.
I mean, do you deal with the maintenance of like the fan blades, etc.?
No, we don't do that. No, that we call the professionals in to do that. So we'll use GE on-wing support. This is ATOPS. The guy the company that's doing this is a company called ATOPS.
Right.
There's another company called Vortex, who are based in Ireland, and they've got the approvals. They got the manpower and the skill set to actually look after the engines. So if we do find a problem on an engine when we do the initial investigations, those guys will come in and do some shop repairs. If they can't repair it here on the shop floor, then they'll take it back to their facilities and do it back there really.
Do you deal with APUs as well?
We do, yeah. The APUs come out and go into stands, and I'm not sure if we've got one next door which is dropped in. We actually manufacture the stands here ourselves.
Right, okay.
So we've got our own manufacturing facilities here to actually manufacture APU stands. So the APUs will come out, sometimes we'll remove them as serviceable. There's not many parts we remove from an aircraft as serviceable. Usually the engines, I would say 90% of the engines that are removed as serviceable. Now and again we'll remove the APU as serviceable. Most of the APUs come out and go back to shop. Inspections, really. And again, the parts that are coming off as removed, and they come off as removed and go back to shop for test and inspection. It's very rare that we're taking parts off and making them serviceable, really.
Here, obviously the business has grown now. You've got your two side businesses. Here you've got two hangars, is that right?
Got two hangars here. This hangar we're in at the moment is our maintenance hangar. It's also a hangar where we store some of the engines. In fact, this bit we're in at the moment is an overflow for our engine stores. Our engine stores is just over the back there. So we've got a few more engines in here than what we anticipated. There's four, which these four just here are just waiting to go out. I think they're going to go out next week actually. And they're going to go back to the owners.
And how would they be transported?
Low loaders on lorries. So a lorry will come in. We'll just pick the engine up, and it'll just go out on the back of a lorry.
Fantastic. And if they're collecting, say, four, they would take all four at the same time?
No, not necessarily. No, you do one by one.
One by one.
You do one by one. Yeah.
Because of probably insurance.
Insurance is a big thing, because obviously these things, like I said, some of them are $5 million. So you got $5 million sat on the back of your truck there. You don't want to anything to happen.
Around 5 or 20, wouldn't you? Absolutely. Yeah. You wouldn't. Yeah, it could be catastrophic if anything happens. So.
Oh yeah, we do get involved in deregistration. When the aircraft come through the facilities, they're usually coming in from another jurisdiction, so we've got to either we'll have to deregister them at some point, and we usually deregister them when we get the go-ahead from the owner, okay, to deregister the aircraft and remove it from the register. That's done after the removal of the engines, because we're removing the engines as serviceable. We can't actually remove the engines as serviceable on an aircraft that's not registered, so it's got to remain registered.
Right,
now and again, we will bring aircraft into our facilities and register them, and maybe put them onto the Manx register or the Isle of Man or the Channel Islands register, and we'll do that to keep the aircraft in a serviceable condition pending a possible release again.
Okay.
So but I would say that 20% of the aircraft that come through, okay, will be in that holding pattern, so it'll be held here under a flag of convenience, okay, pending a possible release again. Whether it gets released or goes into part out, time will tell, really. The longest we've had an aircraft here parked up in storage is about 6 months. So and that's probably about as long as you want to wait, really. Any longer than that, you really want to take them to the States in a dry climate.
Right, okay, that's fair enough.
So we do get involved in deregistration and re-registration.
Oh, right,
So,
okay. I think that's where I was probably
more often than not, the aircraft will come in here within 5 days of it arriving. We're deregistering the aircraft because it's going down the route part out.
Okay, then you would re-register it again, then to kind of move it on.
Well, if it's going to be re-registered, it would be re-registered straight after it's been deregistered. So we've already got that process in mind. So.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, let's have a look here. One thing we wanted to touch on was airframes.
Yes.
Rebuilds, adaptations, that kind of thing.
Yeah, we do a lot of that. Yeah,
you do a lot of that.
Yeah.
And can you? I mean, we could perhaps have a look at something.
Yeah,
later
when we wander around, I
it's,
can show you what we're doing at the moment. We obviously ultimately we're looking after live aircraft when they come through the facilities to a point where the owners will then decide we're going to go down the part out route. Then we go into the next phase of the project, which is disassembly of the aircraft, where we're removing all the high value parts of the aircraft to give those parts either back to the owner or back to a parts company, or actually hold them in-house on consignment pending sale. Once all that's been done, and this could be anything from 2 weeks through to 10 weeks on the disassembly, we're then left with the unwanted material, the stuff that's not going back into the supply chain, where we're now looking for avenues and outlets to maximise the return on the unwanted material. And just generate more income, basically.
Okay.
So this is when we look at the adaptation part of the business, where we're working with training schools. We work with film sets. We work with the government, the military, the fire departments, the police departments, and providing them with bits of aircraft or complete aircraft for training. Film sets, obviously, complete aircraft.
Yeah.
We got involved in the Batman film, the Star Wars film, on supplying them with parts for their scenes and their props. We put an aircraft into Thorpe Park. So if you go to Thorpe Park and go on the Swarm, there's a back end of a 737 there. We put that there. I mentioned earlier on about our friend Stelios.
Yeah.
If you go to London and go to his headquarters in central London, there's actually a back end of an airplane in his building there, which is in EasyJet's colours.
Wow.
So that's there. That's quite. Again, it's from an aircraft. Again, it's trying to generate some money rather than scrap the airframe. We're trying to generate some more income from the unwanted material. To a point, once we've done that, we're then left with the bare bones.
Which don't have
equally, even the bare bones, we could be going out or reaching out to people that want to turn a piece of that aircraft into a little bit of furniture, or whatever, really. But those people are limited anyway, really.
So every part of an airframe really has a place in some
exactly,
way, shape, or form.
And the age of the aircraft, on recyclability of an aircraft, on the newer aircraft we strip down, and we do strip down some aircraft that are 8, 9, 10 years old.
Really?
We do indeed, yeah. On an aircraft which are, say, 12 to 15 years old, we can probably recycle about 98% of the aircraft.
Wow.
Something a bit older, say between 20 and 30 years old, you're probably looking at, I would say, about 80 to 85%. And the 15% that we can't is usually the interior, which is very, very difficult to recycle. So,
sure. So does that have a place then?
It usually gets chipped up. We got companies that come in and take it away, but obviously we pay to have it taken away rather than sell it and generate income. We're actually paying to dispose of this material. It's all disposed of correctly, but it's not the way really we want to go. Really,
no, well, it's quite an honourable way, because you could anywhere in the world you could easily go a different path.
You could do,
especially if it's a cost to yourself. So
exactly,
that's really honourable.
The metal is not a problem at all, really. The metal is easy to get rid of, really, and we get people, calling us wanting to buy the metal. But we only deal with certain suppliers, and suppliers that are accredited to what we do as well, really.
Do you do many modifications? So in the sense of changing a commercial airliner into perhaps a freighter? Or
no, we don't do that. We do under our 145. We're allowed to do minor modifications, but nothing major modifications.
Okay.
But that's all under the 145 on an aircraft which is airworthy, not the bit where you go on to do the disassembly of the aircraft.
Sure.
On the disassembly of the aircraft, we do modifications on disassembled aircraft, but it's more for the manufacturers and the OEMs who want to trial fit or trial some new product on an old airframe. So we assist the manufacturers, the likes of Airbus, Boeing, Safran, whoever, who wants to come in here to trial fit their new product on some older type aircraft. So call it the A320.
Yeah.
The A320 is still operational. There's many of them flying. We're disassembling many A320s, but as the years go on, they got the Neo and the Max and all this stuff. They still want to trial fit bits and pieces like galleys, seats, you name it, doors, valves, pipes, ducts.
Wow.
You name it. A lot of stuff. They come here and we'll assist them with research and development of their new products. And we do a lot of that, actually. So that's another income stream, assisting those guys. We just recently spent about 3 weeks working with a major landing gear manufacturer on trialling a new set of landing gears on an A320, which are going to be fitted hopefully on the Neo 320.
Oh,
so
fantastic.
I can't say who they are.
No, sure.
I can't say what the landing gears are. So we do a lot of that. So again, with Boeing, Airbus, we do all this sort of work.
So in a sense, the whole Salvage part of the branding, the name, doesn't really
relate to
what you're doing now.
It did 20 years ago, but not now really. We're really known as ASI now, really, not Air Salvage really.
Yeah.
And Salvage I don't really talk about really. And I don't really like saying that we're a recycler either, because I don't feel that we are a recycler, because recyclers are taking some waste product, and then turning it into something other waste, if you know what I mean, like scrap metal and that. Really, we're moving the so-called waste from our facilities to the waste facilities for them to recycle. So okay, I guess you could say we're recycling some of the stuff that's going to be used in a training school, but the parts are being removed, and they're being removed in accordance with the maintenance manual. So everything's being done.
Exactly, they're much more high specification.
It is really
kind of equipment. So absolutely. Right, okay. Do you get involved in many bespoke projects? Like obviously you were just talking about what you're doing with landing gear, etc. Do you get involved in bespoke projects, like maybe smaller aircraft who want certain features or certain materials in their aircraft, or We do. We get involved in many projects. Not so much smaller light aircraft. It's more to do with the airliners really than anything else. And we do get, like I said, some real major projects we've been involved with Airbus on in fact the new Airbus A321, which I think they call it the Neo. A lot of that development for the actual cabin was done here at the facilities on an older A321, where we assisted Airbus in moving doors, fitting overwing exits in an old A321, because the old A321s didn't have overwing exits. The new one does have overwing exits, so we assisted them in some R&D work, to prove a point that you could use the existing airframe or length of the existing airframe, fit more passengers in. If you fit more emergency exits and move doors around, you can actually get away with high density seating. That's quite interesting.
And still be comfortable in the aircraft. That's
absolutely, because I do believe they're more or less using the same frame as
they are indeed,
Airbus,
obviously it's far advanced. We were just doing the basics really. We were just looking at is it possible to fit more seats in an old A321 comfortably, and also have the if there was an evacuation, get the people out in this critical time that needed to get the people out. So, and we actually proved that here.
That's brilliant.
For Airbus, which was a major project for us, really. But we do get involved in some major projects like that, really.
I bet that's interesting though, as well. It is
interesting, and we learn a lot from that as well, really. We learn a lot, and we gain a lot of credibility as well. And on from that, we're continually supporting the major manufacturers with the R&D on other things as well, which some things I can't say what we're into or getting involved in, because it's confidential, and obviously they don't want to tell us.
Absolutely, I completely understand.
Especially with Airbus and Boeing, you get Boeing doing this little bit here and Airbus doing this little bit here, and you're in the middle of thinking, well, it's almost the same what you're doing here and doing here, and but you can't say anything.
Absolutely, no, it's secrecy's the word, isn't it? Now you spoke about obviously Airbus testing new features on an existing airframe. Do you get involved much with advanced technologies? So these are things which haven't been tested anywhere at all. So I mean, it could be anything to do with engines. It could be like you were saying about adding doors onto the A321.
Well, some of the things are advanced. Especially carbon fibre and that. We're getting involved in.
Do you deal much with that?
We do, but some of it is confidential. Some of it I can't say what they're doing. There's a lot of emphasis at the moment on the manufacturers are looking when they manufacture a new product on how it's installed and how long it will be to take that part off.
Right.
Especially if you're looking at an aircraft which is en route and it's gone tech en route and it needs that part removed. You don't want the engineer to spend 3 days getting that part out. You need the engineer to get that part out very quickly,
as quick as possible.
So we got a bit of that going on with some of the manufacturers of some of the actuators and some of the component parts on aircraft, where they're looking at aircraft and the future of aircraft and how things can be changed pretty quickly. The reliability,
more
efficient, just the weight, the whole thing really.
It's good that they can include a business like yourself into
and equally we get people coming here looking to recycle parts of the aircraft as well, looking at processes. So we're working with various universities, various companies on recycling some of the material that is very difficult to recycle, and one of them is carbon fibre, and getting a process to recycle carbon fibre, because we're seeing more and more carbon fibre come through the facilities now. It's quite difficult to recycle dirty carbon fibre. You can recycle clean carbon fibre, but not dirty carbon fibre.
When you say dirty, how
dirty as in, I don't mean dirty as in covered in mud.
As it's been used.
Dirty carbon fibre as in a piece of carbon fibre which has been say, cut out of an airplane, and it's got bits of aluminium stuck to it, it's got rivets on it, it's been painted, it's got bits of wire on it, it's got bits of cable on it, you name it, it's got bits of
contamination of the original
yeah, that's
project.
right. If that carbon fibre was clean with no other part on it which is not carbon fibre, then the carbon fibre people can recycle it. But if it's dirty with these other contaminants on it, they can't do it unless it's cleaned. But the time involved in cleaning it outweighs the cost of what you're getting at the end, really. So we wouldn't clean it up. At the moment, the metal, when we scrap the aircraft, we use a machine to scrap the aircraft. The metal, the steels, the aluminiums, the coppers, the fluff, the other bits of contaminant, all go to the metal recyclers, and they will sort that at their facilities, sort out the metal, sort out the steel, the iron, the aluminium, and it will go their separate ways. With a carbon fibre aircraft, it's very difficult to do that, really.
I guess we're probably not far enough into the future yet to find
not
a way
really,
of dealing
no.
with it efficiently.
Only just recently, Airbus have just parted out the first Dreamliner, and it's done up. I think it was done in Everett, and they were doing. They were experimenting on how to recycle the aircraft as well. So the manufacturers are putting a lot of effort into it. They are looking at ways to try and do this, really. But at the moment, there's no real process of recycling. Or if people say there is, well, yes, there is, but you need to put a lot of time and labour into that to recycle it.
R&D,
and it's a case of if you had endless amounts of money, do you want to take something apart and it's going to cost you £100 to take it apart and then get £1 back?
Exactly.
You're not going to do it, really. It's just not cost effective doing it, really.
So they're almost waiting for, I don't know, 20 years in the future, another guy like yourself to come along with with a business like this to be able to, dive into it and learn about it and take it off their hands.
At the moment, some of the carbon fibre that come through here, the carbon fibre that we get rid of, especially the horizontal stabilisers on the A320 and the A319 and the vertical fin in that, it's all carbon fibre, and I would say probably 60% of it's carbon fibre, the rest is metal. We actually send that to the metal guys, because the metal guys will reclaim the metal out, and obviously the carbon fibre will go away. It will get recycled, but not in the way that the carbon fibre guys want it. The carbon fibre guys want to turn it back into carbon fibre again. The carbon fibre that the metal guys extract will probably end up going to into tarmac, into roads and stuff like that, really. So they accept that at the moment, but sooner or later, when an aircraft is completely carbon fibre, the metal guys will turn around and say, well, we can't handle this, we don't want this. For us to reclaim the 5% metal out of it with the 95% carbon fibre, we can't do it. So there's got to be a method to look after this later on.
It's someone's job right now, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, but people are working on it. I'm not saying people are ignoring it. This is a problem that's going to come up. So.
Okay. About recovery and being around the world doing this. Would you be able to tell everyone at home how you would get involved with a recovery, and whether it be local or international? Or
we tend to do more recoveries are local. We have recovery agreements with a few airports, a few operators as well, where we recover their aircraft that have been involved in minor incidents, not usually major. The only major one we've really been involved in was the British Airways aircraft at Heathrow, which we were involved
where the
in.
engines cut out just before landing.
We also were involved in an Africair A320, which had a more than a heavy landing in Libya, so we went out there to do or assist out there with the recovery of the aircraft or the recovery of the parts. More often than not, the recovery that we're doing are pulling it off the grass, moving it from where it got stuck or the landing gear collapsed to a safe location for the insurers to assess before they're either put it back together again or they write the aircraft off.
Sure.
So that's the recovery we do, and the reason why we do it is because we're moving aircraft all the time here, and we're doing things beyond the realms of normal maintenance, like taking landing gears off, moving fuselages to training schools, etc. etc. We've got quite a lot of experience in picking aircraft up and moving aircraft around, really.
Okay, that's quite an interesting one, and I'm sure everyone probably watching home will probably want to ask as well. How did you move that British Airways 777.
Well, that was
what goes into that? I mean, where would you start?
There was a lot of companies involved in that.
Yeah,
Heathrow.
sure.
There was many companies involved in that, really, and we got involved in the latter part of the project, not the beginning part of the project.
Right.
Really.
Okay.
So, and British Airways as well have their own recovery crews, recovery teams. So it was just a very complex manoeuvre that, and it was moved to the side of the runway where it sat for about a year before we went back to actually disassemble it and then move some of it down here. That's our involvement with that aircraft. The recent aircraft that we did move, there was an aircraft that actually had an incident at East Midlands Airport where the gear collapsed on landing.
Right,
we went to move that one. Again, that one was written off and actually cut up and brought back here again for disassembly.
Right, okay.
So
when you say cut up, would that be an on-location job?
On location,
and then bring it in pieces back here?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, now and again. We used to go out and about quite often. In our early days, we were all over the place recovering aircraft, or actually doing disassembling aircraft at remote places. We don't do that as much now, really, and there's two reasons. One is usually the aircraft that has been parked up and left abandoned is worthless. Okay, and it's just scrap metal, and no one wants to pay to get rid of it. And these aircraft are all over the world. And secondly is that the owners, like I said to you earlier on, are a bit more savvy now that they know when to pull an aircraft out of service. They know not to leave it into this peculiar place, okay, because if they leave it there it will rot away and they'll never get their money back. So they'll capture the aircraft at the right time to fly it into a facilities like this facilities here. I'm not saying it's got to be this facilities, but anywhere where it can be disassembled or looked after, so they know that they can get their money back for the asset, really. And this is what I said, gone are the days of abandoned aircraft all over the place. Things will change over the years, really, and in 10, 20 years time there'll probably be no abandoned aircraft all over the place. There'll just be these facilities like this, accepting aircraft in for parking, storage, disassembly, etc., etc.
Fantastic. Well, that's a really positive thing.
It's a positive thing, yeah.
Really good. Yeah. Okay. Obviously, you've been. I noticed when I was doing a bit of research, you've been around the world to do bits of recovery, etc. in the past. Can you elaborate on any of those places you've been to?
We've been all over the place. Some unusual places we've been to. Libya, I mentioned earlier on. That was in the days of Gaddafi, when Gaddafi was there. Been out to Khartoum in Sudan to recover an aircraft back there, and this is purely recovering the spare parts, not recovering the aircraft or airframe back to here. We've been there. We were involved in an aircraft in New Zealand, a 767 that was being disassembled there. Been out to America. We're currently involved in an aircraft in Geneva at the moment, which is a Jetstar, which is part there, which we are actually disassembling that and bringing that back.
Right. Okay.
So that's coming back. It's endless, really. We were involved in an aircraft in Togo, West Africa, which had an incident on takeoff, and actually diverted and went back to Toga.
Yep.
The place, and we went down there to disassemble it. It's obviously a 747. We had to disassemble a remote location on an airfield that they only fly in there once a week. So the logistics and moving equipment down to Toga, where it had no equipment whatsoever, was quite
would have been insane.
Quite hard
to try and organise that, and get it all in there with a time. I guess you've got a time scale on these things.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And equally, again, we've been all over the place. Been out to Quito in Ecuador to do a 340 out there. All over the place, basically, to recover aircraft.
Fantastic.
I can keep on thinking of them, but it's
it's probably endless.
Yeah, there's quite a few.
So many.
Yeah.
That's brilliant. Okay. What we're surrounded by engines. One of the things we wanted to ask about was obviously, you've got your hands on engines here. They get changed on aircraft. Whether aircraft are leased, etc. Okay. All right. That's brilliant. Right. Okay. Let's move on to. Do you deal with the maintenance of like the fan blades, etc.?
No, we don't do that. No, that we call the professionals in to do that. So we'll use GE on-wing support. This is ATOPS. The guy the company that's doing this is a company called ATOPS.
Right.
There's another company called Vortex, who are based in Ireland, and they've got the approvals. They got the manpower and the skill set to actually look after the engines. So if we do find a problem on an engine when we do the initial investigations, those guys will come in and do some shop repairs. If they can't repair it here on the shop floor, then they'll take it back to their facilities and do it back there, really.
Have you ever dealt with any parts from Concorde?
Yes, we have. Yeah, we've actually disassembled 2 Concordes, which was MSN 206 and 202. 202 was down in Filton, and that's now at Brooklands, and 206 was at Heathrow, and that's now at National Museum of Scotland.
Right.
And we
Okay.
took them apart, took them to the museums, and rebuilt them again. So it's another project that we've done over the years. We've not disassembled them as in scrap. I don't think they would allow that. We're also working on the next Concorde, which is at Heathrow, which there are plans afoot, and it's taking a long time to move the aircraft to just central London, just by the London Eye, where it's going to go on a plinth. So whether that happens or not, I don't know really. But we're actually working or in dialogue at the moment with British Airways, Concorde Club, and a few other companies to actually relocate the aircraft. But whether that happens, I don't know.
That'd be wonderful if it happens, because we've been to Heathrow a few times, and it's
very
kind of
sad,
getting
actually,
neglected there, unfortunately.
Yeah, it is, yeah. No, there are plans afoot. It's been ongoing now for a couple of years. I think the planning is going in very shortly into London about putting this aircraft on this plinth. Obviously, we're still a long way off at the moment, and to disassemble the aircraft, you're probably looking at about 6 months, and another 6 months to rebuild the aircraft anyway, really. So, and then on top of that, you've still got to build the plinth and everything else that goes along with it, and get the funding as well.
Sure. And would you get involved with the building of the plinth for it?
Not the plinth, no. The aircraft move we will do, because obviously we've done it twice before, and it's proven what we could do before. So
absolutely, no better person or company for
no,
the
that's
job.
right.
There,
Yeah.
Wow, this is incredible.
So this aircraft is about 12, 13 years old. It's come out of Singapore. It's been in the hangar now for about 2 weeks. The engines were removed next door because that's where we do the maintenance, and the engines are still there at the moment, waiting to be released again. It's in here now, being disassembled. We are probably about 25-30% way through the disassembly of the aircraft. Got guys working on it at the moment, and then as you look around, we've got other parts of aircraft as well. We've got boxes as well waiting for this aircraft, for some of the component parts coming off of it. These landing gears here were off of another A320, which has been it's been disassembled, and it's actually down on the breakup site at the moment.
Right. Okay. So all the elements which are coming off the aircraft now, like I said, obviously this landing gear is obviously from another aircraft.
Yes. Yeah.
All the elements which come off the components come off. You all box them up, store them.
We do, yeah. We got our own in-house carpenter who's over there. He's the one who's making all the noise at the moment. So he's actually making all the boxes up. We actually manufacture. We actually buy the boxes in kit form from a local supplier. We were manufacturing them ourselves, but it's quicker to do this because it's a high turnover aircraft we've got. So we buy them in kit form, and we just build them up and then build the boxes up like you see here. Prior to them going out, basically.
I guess that really helps you because it allows you to analyse how much you can store, volume-wise, and you can pass that specification as it moves through networks to different, whether it's to another lease company or
definitely,
a company,
some of the stuff we do put into our stores around the other side there, really, but majority of it is packed up, and then once it's all ready, like over the back there, all those boxes over the back you see, they're just waiting to be shipped out. That's all part of an ATR 472 that we just disassembled. Oh wow! So that's all boxed up, ready to go. And I think shipment is next week sometime.
Fantastic. Okay, this is amazing.
Yeah.
We can walk and film if you want, because this is just stunning. To get this close to.
One of our APU stands here. Look.
Oh
right. One of the stands we manufactured here, so we do a lot of these stands. This is for the APU stand for this aircraft. And we haven't dropped the APU out at the moment, which is in the back there.
And this is the APU which is about to go on this one. This one's obviously ready for this. This A320.
This APU might be out. It might be for the one outside. I think it's for the ACJ part outside there, actually.
Right.
Might be the APU for that one there, the stand for that one there, actually.
The doors open on the end of the fuselage. Is that the access point to the APU?
Point to the APU there, yeah.
Okay. That's something I've never seen before.
It looks like the APU is already out on this one here, actually. So this stand might be manufactured for the aircraft which is due to come into the hangar, not next week, week after. But again, the aircraft outside, we've removed the engines because they're the high value part of the aircraft.
Yep.
We removed some of the high value component parts as well, and it's just parked outside now, really waiting to come into the hangar for the next phase of the project. Most aircraft come into the hangar for about 3 weeks, and then it's moved back outside while we continue on with the project. So we've got a few phases for it. Phase 1 is engines, which is next door in hangar 1. Phase 2 would be inside this hangar here for 2 to 3 weeks, where we're removing all the high value parts, and then it gets pushed outside before we remove the flying controls and then the landing gears.
Okay.
So,
and how much do you get involved with, like, the electrical components, the avionics? Do you get involved in the stripping of those elements?
we do, yeah, they all come out. In fact, the way you work out the figures on the aircraft is that 80% or 85% of the value of the aircraft are its engines. So you take those off and then substantial amount of money for the engines against the airframe. You're then left with an airframe or a glider, no engines on the aircraft. 20% of the parts on that aircraft is almost 100% of the value of the aircraft. So you do 20% of these parts, okay, avionics, some air conditioning, the brake units, some other bits and pieces, and you've got your money back.
Right,
so it doesn't take very long for you to get your money back on some aircraft. But that's kind of the rule of thumb of what we're doing as well, really.
Okay.
So and the values of the aircraft are built up from engines, APU, wheels, brakes, landing gears, avionics, air conditioning, and so on, really.
I mean, while we're kind of where we are now,
Yeah.
obviously we're next to the landing gear, and obviously underneath the wing. So what would you be able to show us what parts you'd be able to recover? And
well, at the moment we've taken off. We've stripped out the hydraulics in the hydraulic bay. We've done that. Done the avionics. We've done all the air conditioning underneath the aircraft. That's all removed now. Obviously the engines are gone. We're preparing the flaps for removal, taking off all the boat fairings, so we've done those.
Yeah.
We've still got the flaps to remove, we've still got the spoilers to remove as well, and the actuation on the spoilers. We've also got the flap tracks to remove up here.
Yeah.
And there's not a lot going on this aircraft today because most of the team are down on site picking up and moving aircraft around.
Right,
So
okay.
we've kind of eased back on this. And again, when we're disassembling the aircraft, we haven't got many engineers working on the aircraft. Usually about 5 guys working on the aircraft because we've only got one storeman processing the parts.
Okay.
So if you have too many people taking parts off, then you have too many parts in the actual stores, and the guy is overwhelmed by processing these parts. So we manage that by putting guys on the aircraft, stripping lots of parts off, giving them to the storeman, and then leaving it for a day whilst we go back and work on something else.
Makes a lot of sense.
We're kind of rotating aircraft at the moment. So, but we always keep a couple of guys on the aircraft. We've got one guy working on this aircraft at the moment, just keeping the motions going, keeping it going on, really.
Okay, brilliant. I just never been this close to a wing before, so I'm just trying to take it in, as I'm sure everyone watching at home is as well. Okay, and I noticed outside the front of the building you had a lot of cowlings.
Yeah, they're cross reversers. This is TRs here.
Okay.
So outside the front of the building and on the back of the truck, they are cross reversers removed from a 747, which are on pallets, and they're waiting to be. We've got to clean them, so we're going to clean them up, and then they're going to be boxed. They've just recently been removed. Next week, we're going to bring them into the hangar and give them a clean, finish off the boxing on the TRs, and then they're ready for shipment. And I believe they're going out to Jeddah to an aircraft. Which is
Oh right, okay.
Fantastic. And they're bigger versions of these. These are the thrust reversers here. So each half of this is thrust reverser. This is what puts the engine not into reverse thrust, but it directs the airflow
sideways,
forward, to basically slow the aircraft down when it stops. So each half of these is between, I would say, $400,000 and $700,000. So each half.
Wow.
So that it's giving you an idea of roughly the price on this aircraft here. Could even be more, basically. So you're looking at almost
more than the conventional British property.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it is. It's a lot of money that there actually. And on some aircraft, some of the newer new gens, the 737 800s, some of these TRs are 1.2 million. So
wow,
they're quite a lot of money, really.
Gosh, incredible! Absolutely incredible. Fantastic. And
so we're not dealing in scrap, basically.
No, absolutely. I mean, it's It's mind-boggling, really.
It is.
I
Yeah.
didn't realise just how much value there was, just even in elements like this.
It's a very complex part as well. Really, it's a moving part. It's a very big part as well. These TRs will come off. They will get boxed. They will go to the manufacturer, usually down to Nordam, down in Wales, where they'll overhaul them, test them before they'll come back, or not come back here, or go back to the owner, and then go on the market for sale. Or they may even get sold as is, really. But they are very, very complex part of the aircraft.
Is this a carbon fibre?
Some of it's carbon fibre inside, yeah. Some of it, a lot of it's soundproofing as well, really. Aluminium. It's made up of all different types of material, really.
And of course, you've got all the strengthening as well. Obviously, if there's any issues with the engine during flight, you want to be able to contain it.
These are, I think these are the engines that were fitted to this were IAE engines, which are V2500s, which are more expensive than the CFN engines. So they're pretty valuable stuff, really.
Fantastic. And these bags, I assume that's just the hydraulic
that's
leakage.
Hydraulic, yeah, it is. Yeah, those are the hydraulic valves and oil valves for just stopping it from leaking onto the floor. There, really, we bag everything up.
Fantastic. Wow. Okay. Should we move around the front?
Yeah.
I noticed you've the nose cone is raised. I'm sure that's for the
the
radar.
Taking off the antenna. So if you look at the front there, you probably find the antenna's gone. Which it is.
Don't think I've ever seen inside one without anything beyond it.
So the radomes and that, the radar scanner that's on the front there.
Yeah. Which is a very expensive component.
Fairly expensive, yeah, fairly expensive. And even the radomes, a fair amount of money as well. The radome, something like that, is probably about $80,000. So it's quite a lot of money, really.
Fantastic.
When you start putting values on all these parts and the aircraft itself, and then the operating costs of an aircraft, it doesn't make you wonder how airlines actually make any money.
It is a question which I think I'd love to know someone who can explain to me, how they make it so so profitable, because it is a lot of.
It's a high value market.
It is indeed. Okay, so just moving around. Let me just turn around that way. There we go. Okay, so I assume these guys are working on disassembling hydraulics or the flaps.
Preparing the flaps to come off, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, so we do a lot of preparation. Like I said, we keep the aircraft in motion, keep on working it, even though we've taken most of the team off to do another project today.
Fantastic.
Tone's doing the boxing the landing gears there.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. We just get a little look at the landing gear now. Wow.
Yeah, this is a nose landing gear from an A320, and Tony's just boxing it all up, ready for shipment.
Yeah. Fantastic.
It's all been ID tagged up as well.
I can see it's very well labelled.
Yeah, it is. We label everything up. Yeah.
You have to, don't you?
Yeah.
Especially with the value of it.
You do, yeah.
Everything needs to be tracked.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Fantastic.
We get a lot of records with the aircraft as well. The operational records with the aircraft and technical records with the aircraft. And an aircraft without any records is
worth nothing.
It's scrap metal, really.
I've seen various documentaries which involve much smaller private aircraft, and they're kind of worth nothing without their record.
Yeah, they are. Yeah. We have there's about 3 companies we deal with predominantly. Obviously, the metal company. There's another company that takes the waste oils away. The fuels is not a problem because we sell that to a local company. It's controlled by HMRC, so we need to log it when it's left site because it needs to go the correct way.
Yeah.
So the fuel is not a problem. The oils is picked up by another waste recycling company. We actually paid for them to take that away.
Right.
And then the interior is collected by another company, which again we pay them to take it away, and that gets shredded then basically. And there's some other bits and pieces. We deal with a couple of companies that take some of the electronics away from us. We don't really dispose of or scrap too many electronics because most of the electronics that come off go back to shop. And when they're in shop, if they go B-yard or whatever, they'll write them off there. We probably won't see them back again, basically.
Right. I mean, how many aircraft can you kind of realistically store without it being a logistical nightmare?
Obviously, the more aircraft you've got here, it does become a logistical nightmare, especially if everyone wants them disassembled at the same time. Really.
Yeah.
But we do manage that process. I think last year we had probably about 30 aircraft here. We had about 12 aircraft, 12 of those aircraft being disassembled, and the other ones being pushed back. So we tried to, you know, at the moment we've got about 21 aircraft here, 21, 22 aircraft that are either being disassembled or already disassembled, waiting for the next phase.
Okay.
So we try and manage the process as it comes through. Like I said, it goes next door with the engine removals and some of the other bits and pieces before it comes over here for a week, 2 weeks. We may shorten that time, so if we've got a surplus of aircraft, it may only be in a hangar for a week before we move it out. Okay, so we'll just focus on more manpower in the hangar to remove more parts. A couple more storemen working together as a team to try and get aircraft finished, or the first phase of the project. The focus really is on doing the high value parts virtually the day we get the go ahead to actually disassemble the aircraft.
And how much notice would you get for an aircraft arriving?
Sometimes
able to plan it, or
this depends. It depends on. Usually we're planning things. An aircraft will you know, we're planning for an aircraft to arrive. The weather might put some people off coming in, so if the weather's bad we might delay the arrival. Now and again we will get aircraft or customers ring up, especially if airlines go into administration, like overnight. An aircraft is in a specific place and they want to move the aircraft out pretty quick. It may be that I get a call this morning to say that this afternoon we're going to have an arrival of an aircraft to put it into storage. So now and again that will happen, but that only happens when it's a distressed case really.
Okay.
Other than that, there is planning involved in doing it. You know, we've got a schedule of aircraft coming in over the next 6 months. We've got 8 or 9 aircraft due into the facilities over that time, which we're working on, and we know the dates, approximate dates when they're going to come in. We don't know the exact date because weather permitting, whether the aircraft is serviceable, etc. There's lots of factors to bear in mind really.
Okay. So quite a complex
it
thing.
Is quite complex.
Try and remain, you know, manage it as well as possible.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
if I just explain about this Boeing 727 here.
Yeah.
We've had this aircraft for about 2 years. It belonged to the Kuwait royal family.
Right.
And we accepted this in for storage whilst they went to get their new aircraft up its standstill. So it's here, still in storage. It's almost verging on an obsolete aircraft, but it is a live aircraft, and we do keep it operational, and we are going to run it later on today. So we'll go on board. We'll sit in the flight deck or something. Might be a bit
brilliant.
More. I'm going to connect the batteries up.
Okay. Yeah. All right then.
Wow.
Oh wow.
Wow. Look at this.
I'm going to pop the battery on.
Yeah. So you know your way around all this kit pretty well after.
I do indeed, yeah.
Do you get involved in the flying side?
I've got a light aircraft. We've got an arrow, Piper arrow, which we use for a bit of business. We've also got a Cherokee and a 310, Cessna 310 as well.
Wow. Okay. So you like to indulge in that side of the well, who wouldn't?
Oh, I only use it for business. I don't use it for pleasure, really.
Expensive pleasure, isn't it?
Yeah, it is expensive pleasure. Yeah.
God, this is fantastic.
I'll get this thing started.
Okay.
And,
is that the APU firing up?
The APU firing up now, yeah.
Wow.
I'm not sure if everyone else can hear that.
Can you hear that, guys?
If you want to. We'll go live. The aircraft will be fully lit up very shortly.
Okay.
I'm just looking at the cranking down there and the EGT, which yeah.
Wow, hear that APU. Hope everyone at home can hear that APU firing up and running.
Carry on with the interview now if you want.
Fantastic. Can I sit over there? Is that alright? I'll give you that.
Yep.
The mic for a sec.
Climb in.
Every time I've done this, it's in a flight sim.
So this 727 has been here for a few years. We look after it. We run it weekly. We taxi it and keep it moving as well. weeks. We do power runs on it as well, just to keep it ground operational. It's not flight operational. To make it flight operational, it needs to go into the hangar for a couple of weeks for some more work to be done. But the aircraft, it is for sale, but it's a very, very difficult aircraft to sell because of what it is. The 727s are verging on obsolete, which is a shame really. It's a beautiful aircraft. It's 1982, this aircraft. And I think when they were manufactured, they were manufactured in about 66, 67, not quite sure. So it's a lovely airplane. The only thing that really is worth any money on the aircraft are the engines, and even those engines have got a value of less than $80,000 each.
Right.
So you're not talking huge sums of money here really. You know, if we got offered $300,000 for the aircraft, we'd probably accept it. And we've invested time in this aircraft as well, actually keeping it serviceable, in a serviceable, ground serviceable condition.
So how long have you had the aircraft here?
It arrived in 2016, May 2016, or May, June 2016.
Right, okay.
So it's been here for a couple of years. We've had people come to look at it, we've had people interested in it. But at the end of the day, it's just
one of those
so
kind
many,
of aircraft.
yeah, so many aircraft on the market of this type as well. And you can pick up a Super 27. This is just a normal 27. A Super 27 for probably no more than $400,000 anyway, really. So you're not going to buy this one here, really. And this is a VIP 70. Again, going back to what I said about VIP aircraft.
Yeah.
Anyone with any money is not going to buy this aircraft. Really.
Exactly. It becomes a harder object to sell, doesn't it? But it's a beautiful aircraft, though.
It is a lovely airplane, really. Yeah. And it's like I said, it's since we've had it, we've only had 3 defects. We've got the nav gone down, so we've lost the nav. We've got a generator that we can't get online, which is a GCU that needs replacing, and we've got a fuel tank probe problem as well, where we're not getting the correct reading in the number 3 tank. Apart from that, we've got no other defects on the aircraft.
Which is fantastic for an aircraft.
And also, apart from the crack in the windscreen.
But
again, this is what happens when you park aircraft up for a long time, really. You end up with delamination, you end up with cracks in the windscreens and that, really. But then, again, this is all minimal that needs doing to the aircraft to make it airworthy again, really.
Yeah. It's in the right place to have those repairs done, I guess, isn't it? So this is fantastic. Just trying to take it all in at the same time.
Someone said, make him an offer he can't refuse.
We do get involved in many things. We do things for charity as well. We do charity things. We support numerous charities. One of them is the air ambulance that we support. We do tours of the facilities, which is very interesting. So I do talks on what we do, how we do it, how I started, much like I'm talking to you now. And then what we do from that, we ask people to donate a minimum of £5 per person, and that £5 goes to the Wiltshire Ambulance. I think last year we raised about £1,600, £2,000 for the tours that we've done here.
That's brilliant.
And it's my time really, so I'm taking 2 hours out of my day to show people around, and there's groups of 20 or 30 people. Yeah, we're looking at many things really. We're always looking at it. We're always open to opportunities. I look at various things, and like I said, we've recently got into buying some light aircraft, to lease the light aircraft through another little business. Yeah, it's a difficult question, that really. No, I'm 56 now, so I don't really want to get into too much. I do get offered opportunities to take the business to other places, or not actually take this, leave the facilities and move somewhere else, establish another facilities at another location. We are looking, or we have looked at China, and we have looked at some other places around the globe, but it's I don't want to work forever really at the end of the day.
No, so, I don't blame you.
And at the moment, we're fairly comfortable at Kemble. We're fairly busy. In fact, we're always busy at Kemble doing many things. sometimes I see my job as a little bit like a hobby, really. So I enjoy coming into work in the morning.
Well, that's
I enjoy
good,
doing what I do.
A job you enjoy becomes a
that's right,
painless job at the end of the day, isn't it?
Equally, it'd be nice to have some more time off. This is one of the reasons why I don't really want to get too involved in too many more projects, really. Again, I can't become complacent and think this place is going to survive without me. I need to make sure I'm on the ball with most things, really. So, I don't know.
It seems like a well-oiled engine, anyway.
Yeah.
And you know, it's a very successful business.
It is, yeah. You know, we've got some good key customers and core customers, and we've had those customers for a long, long time, and some major customers as well that use us all the time. We work with a lot of operators, a lot of airlines that use us as well. So we try and get involved in other things that will add to the business as well, really.
You've been in both the hangars now. We've seen the A320 you've got in there, and we've seen the engines in the first hangar. Is there anywhere else you'd like?
We can go down. We'll jump in the car.
Yeah.
We'll go down to the breakup site, where we cut aircraft up for the training sections that we're talking about. We also dispose of aircraft. We don't dispose of aircraft all the time. We tend to collect quite a few aircraft before we dispose of aircraft. So the last disposal was about 3 weeks ago, and we probably dispose about once every 8 weeks. We're disposing of 8 or 9 aircraft on site.
Yeah.
Just makes it better for doing that, really, rather than just with the machine
Constantly
constantly disposing of, really. Just collect a load of aircraft. It also gives us the opportunity to try and reap more rewards from what's left down on site, selling sections and selling bits of the aircraft to whoever wants to buy it.
Okay, so it gives you more time to find buyers, etc.
Yeah.
Okay, brilliant.
But once it goes into site, it goes past, like I said, they're usually aircraft that have been signed off for disposal, and then we just hold on to them. This is the ones that we're cutting sections out of, we're cutting bits out of them, we're working with the manufacturers, etc.
Okay.
But yeah, we can go down there now.
Yeah. Would it be alright just to have a look out the back there?
Yeah.
So we're just going to, while Mark's just shutting the aircraft down, we're going to have a quick look at what a Royal Q80 Royal Family jet looks like. So we've got these immense seats.
Extravagant.
It's not in today's world, but I'd imagine back then. I mean, look at this. I mean, this.
It's a fairly old airplane. Wow. Some of the bits and pieces have been removed now. Some of the lights and some of the personal effects have been removed. So
I'm guessing you wouldn't try and sell it with everything.
Sorry?
You wouldn't try and sell it with all the features included.
I personally think if this was sold, it would be sold with spare parts, and it would only be limited parts that come off of it. The engines, the APU, some of the avionics, and that's about it, really.
Sure. Okay. Right. Okay. Okay. Should we move on?
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll follow you. Okay.
No, I don't.
I love the old fire engine over there.
Oh yeah, we use that for. These are our buildings over there as well.
Oh, they're yours as well.
We use the fire engine for ballast. When we take the engines off the larger airliners like the 74 and 76, we use as IBCs, and we fill up the IBCs with water.
Right.
And
Okay.
the only way we get water into the cargo bays is by pumping it with the fire engine. So we pump it into the IBCs, and then when we're done, we suck it back out of the IBCs.
Fantastic.
Just to give it the ballast, because once you take the engines off the aircraft, it then becomes tail
heavy. Yeah.
So you need to keep the weight. So we keep about 5 tons in the forward cargo bay.
Wow. Look at the tugs. These tugs. Look at the size of them. Of course, you only ever see these at the airport to see one actually
This close.
this close. Obviously personalised. I'm not sure you can see at the top there, but you've got aircraft panels, you've got doors, you've got nose cones, yeah, radons, you've got cowlings, you've got cargo bay doors. I mean, it's
millions
just
of pounds worth of engines.
yeah. I mean, it's just it's a bit of a come down from a jet aircraft. Am I? I'm just admiring the tugs.
Oh right, yeah.
They're brilliant.
Yeah, you need those things
absolutely.
to move the aircraft around.
And those are your
yeah, the Arrows and the Cherokees are. So the two behind isn't they belong to a private vehicle.
Good morning, Camel Tower, message.
Camel Tower ASI 1, currently outside H1, West Mission to go to the Belfast, please.
And that's 7-4.
ASI 1, yeah, you can proceed Belfast.
ASI 1 proceeding, thank you. What did you say about serial numbers?
Serial numbers on components.
Yes, why they do it?
Yeah.
Trace it.
Just to trace the components.
Every component part fitted to an airplane will have a part number and a serial number.
Same as a car.
A data plate as well, and it's all tracked, it's logged, and it's usually with an aircraft as well. You have back to birth trace, and without the back to birth trace, again that part could be a bogus part or a part
have no value essentially.
No value at all, no. And we end up, obviously the older the aircraft gets, the more records you end up having. They are actually storing a lot of records now on disk, on file,
right, okay.
Electronically storing them, and kind of almost doing away with paper records. Some of the older aircraft we have here that still have paper records have boxes and boxes and boxes of paper records. And it's quite difficult to know what to do with those.
Absolutely.
You've got to keep the records for, I think, up to about 10 years after the aircraft has been destroyed as well.
Oh, right.
And the reason for that is because of the component parts that are coming off the aircraft, they're still in circulation. So you still need the records for those parts that are still around, really.
So it's still traceable.
Yeah.
I'd imagine you need a hanger just for that.
Yeah. Well, they end up going on to the company that's bought all the parts or bought the aircraft for parts, so we end up moving those on later on. We don't store an awful lot of records here. We have a couple of containers where we store records in.
It's half a 737.
Yeah.
And these are, I assume, the cranes you were talking about.
Yeah, at the moment we're moving these aircraft which have got the landing gears removed. We're actually picking them up and dropping them down. So this is where the aircraft come, where we cut the aircraft up. We go beyond, obviously, maintenance. We're now into aircraft which have all been signed off as kind of scrap. But what we're doing now is cutting flight decks off, cutting sections out, cutting doors out to sell on to training companies. This aircraft here, we've got a lot of work to do on this aircraft here. This is an old A319. We've stripped all the valuable parts off of it. We've sold the front section. If you can see the cut line of the aircraft, just underneath that little silver patch there, just underneath the door, there's a line.
Oh yes, I see it.
So we've cut that line there. Okay, we're taking that front off. That's going out to Dubai to be converted into a sim out there.
Wow,
the back section of the aircraft as well we've sold, and that's going to a company up in the Midlands where they want to use it for some cargo, not training, I should say, some modifications. They're constructing some new cargo equipment.
Right,
they want
okay.
to use the actual cargo section for but in order to do that, we can't do it up high on the stilts like it is here, because we've got so much work to do on the aircraft, cutting the aircraft. We're going to pick the aircraft up, lower it right the way down so it's just on 2 blocks of sleepers, so it's a good height to actually work from.
Yep.
And whilst the crane's here as well, we're going to move this section here and drop this section down as well, because we've been doing some work on that one there.
Wow, okay.
This is a 7.3 new gen. The flight deck's been cut off and been sold, and the aircraft is just waiting for the next phase of it now. This is why I'm saying we don't dispose of aircraft constantly here. We'll keep, even though this is kind of almost scrap, we'll keep this for quite a long time, and in that time we'll be looking for cuts from it. The doors still need to be cut out because they're still of good value. Each door and door frame, which are the passenger doors, they've got a value of between 15,000 $125,000.
Wow, that's
just
incredible.
for door and door frame. So there's still quite a bit of value in that, really.
Fantastic. And what other kind of elements, like within the frame line? I mean, you obviously touched on the doors. What about the windows?
The windows, we'll cut out the windows, and these are the things that we sell to the artists who will polish them up and
oh right,
put
so
them on
they
walls,
wouldn't get
so.
used again on another aircraft.
No, not the windows. No.
Okay.
It's very, very rare that we will take the windows out. The only time we will do that is if the aircraft is actually owned by an operator and we're supporting the operator with parts from their aircraft that we're disassembling.
Right.
And they may call up for a window to come out. But to be quite honest, the cost involved in taking it out, sending it away to be polished and recertified to be refitted again probably outweighs the cost of buying a window, really.
Sure.
And there's a lot of things on the aircraft you can say that to as well, really. Life jackets is one of them. It's very difficult to recertify life jackets.
Comes second hand, so I guess it becomes.
And also with
useful.
life jackets, you usually find they're branded, so a life jacket will have the airline written on it. So another airline's not going to buy those life jackets with this logo written on it.
Very true. Very true.
And again, they are classed as hazmat, believe it or not. So they're hazardous material. So we can't ship the life jackets unless you pull out the cartridge.
Right.
So you need to pull that out, and again, once you pull that out, that's another cost. So all this adds up to a point where the life jacket is almost scrap really.
So I mean, for example, looking at the fuselage we've got left here, I mean, what else would be really valuable on there apart from the doors, which is left?
The doors,
at
the overwing exits is another good thing that will be taken off of it.
Yeah.
So that and just sections of the aircraft really. Because this is a fairly current, newish aircraft, this is an 800,
right,
737, and there's not many 800s being disassembled. There are other things as well, which we could be working with Boeing or whoever it is on something else they want, like a cargo compartment,
yeah,
or some other structural part of the aircraft for a bit of research and development, really.
Fantastic. So it can go quite a long way, really.
Can do. This is one of the reasons why we keep a lot of it. Is over the back there we've got a 757, and there's no 757s in the UK being disassembled at the moment, so we keep hold of the 757 because there's the odd thing that might come off of it.
Sure. Okay. And I can see that's an ex-Monarch. Yes, I can see that. Yeah, lovely aircraft. 757.
Yeah. Just here we've got just a pan around. We won't want quite a lot going on at the moment. Over here is another ATJ. So this is another VIP 319. This aircraft here we're going to drop down as well. We're cutting this one into 3 sections, and the 3 sections have been sold and they're actually going out to Holland.
Right. Okay.
So what will be left of that aircraft then, this is one I was saying about recyclability of the aircraft, that one there will be almost 100% recycled, because the sections that are going will be the front section, centre section and the rear section, which will leave just the wings. We'll go to the scrap metal yard and be recycled.
So there'll be nothing left of that aircraft?
Nothing left of the aircraft, completely recycled.
Brilliant. That's so good. That's so good. And what about the 74 over there?
74 is, again, that's in for disassembly as well. So that's just waiting the next phase of the project, basically.
Okay.
It's very, very rare that we'll be cutting sections out of 74s. There are actually more 747s parked up and being disassembled than there are flying. Which is a shame.
Yeah,
really.
it is a shame.
Kind of the end of the 747.
End of an era.
And it's a beautiful aircraft. It's probably one of the most gracefulest aircraft that you see. It's flying.
Yeah, why they call it the Queen.
Yeah, just recently they had the 50-year celebration as well of the 74. It's quite a shame, really, but there we go. Times move on, really.
Absolutely, and even the newer version isn't quite following it in its predecessor's path, unfortunately. No. But yeah, as is the industry, etc.
And over the back we've got a 777. 777 again. We've been stripping it down. In the UK, there's no other 777s being stripped down in the UK, so we're again keeping that fuselage. So we'll keep that for as long as we can rob parts from.
Sure.
We have got the next phase of the project coming through very shortly. We're actually cutting out the number 2 door, which is going. So that's what
I'm quite amazed, but once you start cutting aircraft down, it's amazing how many you can fit into a yard.
Yeah. It's a big site. We got a lot of aircraft in here, really. If you look around, you see numerous aircraft in different cut sections. All aircraft, we got all the flight decks off aircraft apart from the 7.4s, we don't cut the 7.4 flight decks off because it's just worthless.
You can't go anywhere really.
But we cut all the flight decks off, we cut sections out, we cut door frames out, and we leave it all here pending sale again to training companies really. And there's a big market at the moment with training companies.
Fantastic. And is that an ATR you've got there, or
that one there is a what's left of a ATR 72.
Right.
This is the one that was talking to you about
Yeah.
in the hangar there. There's the flight deck just there.
Oh,
It's been
right.
sold, so that's been cut off. This one over here, we had someone here yesterday who looked at that and said, "Oh, can we cut out the emergency exits? They want the emergency exits. Can we cut out a few more things?" So we've still got a little bit more to do on that one there before we dispose of it. We just dragged it back there because the 7.3 out there with the back cut off is coming in next week.
Right. Okay.
To do some more work on really.
Okay.
So we'll try and fill up this space as much as possible before we let the machine go. Where the machine is behind. See the
Yeah.
Samsung excavator?
Yeah.
That's the machine that gets rid of everything.
Right.
So what it will do then is spend 2 weeks just going around scrapping everything. We'll then get our supplier to come in to take the waste away,
Okay.
and then we'll start again collecting all the aircraft.
And where will all that waste go? Into the bins
it goes
behind
to Smiths,
us? or-
Smiths, Gloucestershire.
Yeah.
So
I
we
know
use
it very
that.
well.
They're our supplier for metal really, and we've got a good relationship with them. And we send it all there.
Fantastic.
So you see
That's
it there.
brilliant. It's so nice to be able. Yeah, it's so there we are. It's so nice to be able to know that all these aircrafts. Then none of it's going to waste, but it's all going to to places where it's not going to be sat around causing nuisance to anything
exactly,
really.
Yeah. We deal with
environmentally
museums
and-
as well. Another thing we do with museums, we donate to museums, so we get museums approach us about this. And we've just recently donated a wing to Brooklands Museum, which is an
Oh,
Airbus
right.
wing. And we had the National Museum of Scotland here on Monday, and we're going to donate part of an Airbus wing to them as well. So do that.
Brilliant. That's so good. Fantastic.
Okay.
And what are these behind us here? Is this
Fit in there. So we've taken these off just recently. They're going to go up to the hangar very shortly and get boxed up. So yeah, they're engine bearers.
wow. It's so nice to see, the components and elements you just don't get to see, on a normal aircraft, and it's all a bit overwhelming, really. I'm trying to take it in as well as ask you questions, and
What would be the pricing of
Something
like this? Yeah.
Well, an A3, we've got an A320 flight. This one here, see the front section here where you see the lines by the door? Well, we've cut just below the door and just around that bit there is 24,000.
Right.
And it's empty inside, there's nothing inside.
Yeah.
This bit here is about $12,000.
Someone's asking for a man cave.
I get asked this all the time, and people underestimate how much it costs to cut this off. If you look at this here, this isn't like a couple of £100 to do this exercise, just to get the cranes in to lift it up. You're talking a few grand, and that's even before we cut the section off and sell the sections. So this goes on all the time, really. So we're selling sections, door frames, anything from 10,000 through to 20,000. Flight decks, the cheapest flight deck we sell is about 7,000, and 3,000 of that is the labour to cut it off. So there's a lot involved in doing what we do, really.
It's not simply, here's the front of an aircraft.
And equally, someone will ask us about just a section to put in their garden of a fuselage. Well, even cutting something like that off is still 5, 6, 7,000, depending on the size, really. Because not only we've got to cut it off, the front off, the back off, cut it underfloor so it sits right. There's so much labour involved in doing that. You need some heavy plant and equipment to do it as well, really. So it's not really cheap. You need to be a serious sort of buyer to do that, really.
There we go.
Fantastic.
You see some sections over there, look, just behind the 777.
Yeah, I can
the
see
hoop
those.
sections.
Yeah. And are they destined to somewhere now? Are they?
They're door sections. They're door sections from a 767 that we've dismantled. So again, there's still a lot of money, and it was a lot of money to get them like that, basically, to cut them out. Again, it's not a couple of £100 to do that.
Of course, they've got to be in a condition to ready to whether it's to be
Exactly.
installed
When we
again
start
or-
cutting big things out, because we're doing a lot of cutting on this aircraft here, this is where we need to lower it to the ground to do it at a safe working height. Cut the flight deck off, it's not so bad, really. But if we're doing major work, then we've got to lower it to the ground to do it, really. And that's when we start looking at high costs and that.
Okay. I just noticed on the end of that fuselage there, you can see all the catering
You
services.
can, yeah. That's a galley.
galley,
In fact, we're
that's
taking
right.
that galley out at the moment because that is the rear section of an A320. The next job is to cut that section underfloor and we're actually working with a well-known German company at the moment to do a galley nav modification on an A320. So it's a new type of galley stroke lav,
Right.
fitted into the rear end of an A320, which is kind of the next generation sort of interiors they're looking at the moment. So we're doing an exercise in a few weeks' time whether or not this can be installed by using the rear access doors. So we've cut that section off.
Right,
It's going to go up the hangar. We're then going to try and fit this in there to see what problems we would have as engineers fitting this in if it was being done in a hangar on a live aircraft. And if we have problems, then they can take it back to the drawing board and just
They can say, right, we can do this, but we need to do this.
Exactly.
Or,
Yeah.
It's all good training, you know.
Yeah, it
good,
is. Yeah.
good-
But again, that's all research and development, really,
Yeah.
on new products that we're helping those guys. Obviously, we get financial reward for all this because there's a lot of time involved in doing this, but it's helping them out a great deal without doing it on the real aircraft and finding out that they can't install this thing.
Exactly, because it's a lot of cost to
It
everyone.
is,
isn't
yeah,
it?
yeah.
So, fantastic. We got any more questions at all?
Do you do public tours?
Usually group tours. They need to join somewhere like Round Table, Rotary, or Institute of Directors, or some group, Clark Hub clubs, things like that, really. And we limit it to 8 tours a year in the facilities.
Well, which is
Now
why
and
we
again,
appreciate.
now and again, we do a special tour, and I done one. I had an email because I get lots and lots of emails every week from people wanting to come and have a look around. And at the end of the day, we're not really open to the public. This is a business. I had an email from a guy who was a big aviation fan. He worked as a baggage handler at Coventry or some other airport. His wife loved aircraft as well, and he wanted to propose to his girlfriend on an aircraft. So I thought I'd seen this. I thought I would do this. So we actually done it on the 7.2, roughly where we were sat earlier.
Wow!
So
Did she say yes?
Yes, she did. Yeah.
Good.
I got a little bottle of champagne for them as well. So.
Oh, that was a really nice gesture. What?
Yeah, like I said, we've been going for 22 years. I've got a couple of my engineers, and we've got 45 staff in total. And some of my engineers have been with me since I started. So obviously they're supervisor roles.
Bit like a family, isn't it? I guess
it is really. Yeah.
That's really nice.
So
That's really nice.
which is good, and it's again to do with obviously they get a good salary. It's doing something different. You know, it's not run of the mill job. It's not monotonous.
No,
it's something different. Every day is
isn't it?
different. You know,
Yeah.
so
which for them it must be so rewarding.
Yeah,
That's
it is,
why
yeah.
they're you know they've worked for you so long. But
yeah.
you know, I think if you get a good backbone to your business, you've got a great team
Exactly,
behind
yes,
you.
yeah.
You can achieve anything, really, can't you? So.
Yeah.
this is
Because people make
fantastic.
businesses.
Absolutely, that's what my wife tells me. She's in a large sales team, so I can appreciate that. Fantastic. Okay, right. Do you want to go back to kind of come out of their hair a bit and let them get on with what they're doing?
Just a question. In terms of sort of, the staff being mechanically certified, what sort of do they have to have any certifications to work?
We do. Yeah. Some of in fact, most of our staff are qualified aircraft engineers.
Mm-hmm.
We have got a scheme where we take on unqualified engineers, but they've still got to be mechanically minded.
Yeah.
We've got a few guys here that are ex-army that we've brought through the ranks, and we've got an internal scheme to take them up to, I think it's a level 2. To go to level 1, they need to really invest their own time into it as well, and do some qualifications, which we're happy to pay 50%.
That's really generous.
So,
do you do any kind of internship, work experience?
We do that. We've got a young lad next week on work experience, but it's still quite complicated really doing that, really, because you've got to he's got to be with someone, and
he's got to oversee it, health and safety, etc. Of the aviation business, most people only see the front end of it, the polished, clean, the commercial side to it. So to understand what goes on beyond that, looking after components, dealing with components, storing components, I mean, it's such an important part of the business, and what you're doing with, you know, being able to look after all those elements, not wasting any elements, and make a business from doing that, is absolutely fantastic. So I can only, you know, take my hat off to what you've done, and thank you for your time today. We really appreciate it, and thank you very much. We're going to end it here, and yes, thank you very much. Thanks, Mark.
Wonderful. Thank you. Great.
Take care.